They Cloned Tyrone is now streaming exclusively on Netflix. This was brought to you by debuting director Juel Taylor, and it's got a stacked cast of John Boyega, Teyonah, Parris, and the man himself, Jamie Foxx, rounding out a great trio. A series of eerie events thrusts an unlikely trio onto the trail of a nefarious government conspiracy. Just based off that synopsis, you would think that this is some sort of political thriller. And in a way it is. But it's also a mystery, it's also a science fiction film. It's also got loads of comedic elements. It's hard to really pin down what They Cloned Tyrone is really trying to be at its core. But I think that's what makes movies like this so great. They have little bits and pieces of elements of all these fantastic genres, and it all boils together and it makes this really amazing recipe. They Cloned Tyrone, I think, is one of the most inventive movies to hit exclusively to Netflix in a while. I think the ideas and the concepts presented in this movie are some of the most unique you'll ever see in science fiction. And you've gotta applaud Juel Taylor because it really does not feel like a first-time director helming this. Such an excellent grasp on cinematography, blocking of actors. And I love that this movie feels so vintage and old school, even though it's set in present day. It feels like a movie that came out in the 1970s, just with better budget 50 years in the future. Because with the graininess of a lot of this cinematography, it looks like it came out in the 70s. You also have that little nifty cigarette burn in the corner. The score also upbeat 70s funk. It really feels like an old school film in a lot of ways. And I really respect movies like that, paying homage to the past while also being set in the present. There's a lot to enjoy about this movie, and I'm saying this as someone who was going into this with no expectations, really. Haven't really seen any trailers, not much marketing out about this movie. And I feel like this is going to be one of the big hidden gems of 2023. But a story like this and a movie only becomes a gem like it does with a stellar cast. And thankfully, this movie has the biggest melting pot of a trio you could ever imagine. My birthday twin, Jamie Foxx, plays a pimp called Slick Charles. God, that sounds like a pro wrestling gimmick, doesn't it? But he brings his Jamie Foxx charm and his charisma to every frame. He had me in stitches in a lot of cases in They Cloned Tyrone. And he plays incredibly well off of Teyonah Parris from the WandaVision show, gonna be in the Marvels as Monica Rambeau. She plays a prostitute in this. And my God, she is so energetic and happy and enthusiastic and in your face. She plays magnificently off of Jamie Foxx, has great chemistry with him. You would think this movie is just a straight up comedy with those two actors. But this movie has a lot of heart and soul because of John Boyega, who I think gives his best performance in a while. And you know why I say that? There's a lot that comes across with this character, Fontaine. And John Boyega is able to tell you how he's feeling with just the expression on his face and his given circumstances, which are tragic. So he basically has to resort to a life where he's a drug dealer. He does that for a living. He has to do it to make ends meet. He's trying to win the lottery and make it big. But yet there's just so many circumstances that keep dragging him down into the mud. And I felt so much for this character, man. Fontaine is a great hero for this story. John Boyega is magnificent in this film. Especially as you get closer to the end. He has to explore quite a bit of range, and I want to try and be as vague as possible about why he explores the range. But he's great. He's really, really great at what he does in this film. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot to enjoy, and I highly recommend you check it out on Netflix this weekend when you get a chance after the Barbenheimer double feature. God, this is a crazy weekend for quality movies, guys. I will say, though, this is probably the 27th review you've heard say this. There's a lot of elements to this villainous plot line that feels very similar to Get Out. Not to say that them doing this sort of thing is bad, but there's also references to an old school Stanley Kubrick movie that also kind of explains the idea. And that kind of boils down to pretty on-the-nose writing, which ultimately is my biggest issue with They Cloned Tyrone. Yeah, there's certain points where it's like, okay, this is our pitch, and this is what the movie's going to be like, so you understand it. And I don't want to say the third act falls off of a cliff, but it doesn't really feel as simple or as clever as the first two acts do. Because once you start getting these exposition dump sequences about what these villains are up to, it can get a little overcomplicated for my liking. So because of the overcomplications of the plot, the writing has to get so freaking on the nose. And with this concept that They Cloned Tyrone has, Like, I wish they would have placed a lot more trust in the audience, at least in a consistent manner. Because I kind of felt like my hand was being held through the third act so I could kind of register everything that was happening. And it was riveting. I mean, it was good stuff that was going on. I just wish that the writing would have placed a little bit more trust in the audience. But besides that, I mean, They Cloned Tyrone is a solid debut for Juel Taylor. Great 3 leading performances here from John Boyega, Teyonah, Parris, and Jamie Foxx. If you have Netflix, if you're a subscriber, I highly recommend giving this movie a shot. I'm gonna give They Cloned Tyrone an A-. Despite its flaws, there's a lot of fun to be had here, guys. But let me know what you thought of They Cloned Tyrone down in the comments section below. And of this gigantic triple feature July 21st weekend, which one was your first go-to? Which one was your favorite? Guys, I love discussing all new things in movies and entertainment over here on the regular. This channel is the place to be if you want to keep up to date and if you want to join a great community of film lovers and entertainment lovers alike. So do consider subscribing and tap on that like button on your way out. Really helps continue spreading the love and spreading this content out there to more lovely viewers like you. Guys, y'all are the best. Stay tuned for my review of Haunted Mansion next weekend. Hopefully that's better than the Eddie Murphy version. I'll just say that much. It's going to be a lot of fun over here as we wrap up a jam-packed summer. So with all that being said, back talk, commence.